Part 1. The dinner. The restaurant was the kind of place where they didn't list prices on the menu. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings, and each table sat far enough apart that the wealthy could conduct their business without fear of eavesdroppers. I smoothed down my black dress, last season's, but Marcus had never noticed what I wore anyway, and watched my husband of 3 years lean back in his chair with the confidence of a man who owned half the city. "She'll be here any moment," Marcus said, checking his Rolex. "I expect you to be civil, Elena." Civil? As if I were the one who'd shattered our marriage vows. I took a sip of wine, letting the expensive Bordeaux coat my tongue. "Of course, darling. I'm always civil." His jaw tightened. Marcus Hartwell didn't like my tone lately. For 2 years, I'd been the perfect corporate wife, smiling at galas, hosting dinner parties, turning a blind eye to his late nights at the office. But 6 months ago, I'd stopped pretending not to notice the perfume that wasn't mine, the lipstick stains, the hotel receipts carelessly left in his suit pockets. The affair with Sophia Chan had started 8 months ago, though Marcus didn't know I'd been counting. She was 26, a junior executive at Hartwell Industries, and stunningly beautiful in that effortless way that made other women hate her on sight. "There she is," Marcus said, and his entire face transformed. He looked at her the way he used to look at me, before the wedding, before I became another acquisition in his portfolio. Sophia glided toward our table in a white dress that probably cost more than my car. Her long black hair cascaded over her shoulders, and her smile was warm and genuine. At least, it appeared that way to anyone who wasn't looking closely. But I saw the calculation in her eyes, the subtle triumph. "Mr. Hartwell," she said, then turned to me with practiced sympathy. "Mrs. Hartwell, thank you so much for agreeing to meet with me." Marcus pulled out her chair, something he hadn't done for me in over a year. "Elena," Marcus said, his voice taking on that edge that meant he expected compliance, "Sophia has something she'd like to say to you. And then I expect you to respond appropriately." I raised an eyebrow. "Respond appropriately?" Sophia folded her hands on the table, the picture of remorse. "Mrs. Hartwell, I want to apologize for any pain I may have caused you. Marcus and I never meant for things to develop the way they did. It just happened." "It just happened," I repeated slowly. "How romantic." "Elena." Marcus's tone was sharp now, a warning. "Sophia is trying to apologize. The least you can do is accept it graciously." "Is she?" I looked at the younger woman, who had the decency to shift uncomfortably in her seat. "Because it sounds like she's apologizing for getting caught, not for sleeping with my husband." Marcus's face flushed red. "God damn it, Elena. I brought you here to be an adult about this situation. Sophia and I are in love. We're planning a future together. The least you can do is apologize to her?" I finished. "Is that what this is? You want me to apologize to your mistress for being an inconvenience?" "You're twisting this," Marcus snapped. Several heads turned at nearby tables, and he lowered his voice. "I want you to apologize for the scene you made at the office last week. You embarrassed Sophia in front of her colleagues." "Ah, yes. The scene." I'd stopped by Hartwell Industries to drop off some documents Marcus needed signed. I'd found him and Sophia in his office, her perched on his desk, his hand on her thigh. I'd said exactly 3 words, "How professional, Marcus," before walking out. Apparently, Sophia had cried afterward, and her co-workers had started gossiping. "You want me," I said carefully, "to apologize to your girlfriend for witnessing you groping her in your office." "I want you to be reasonable," Marcus said. "You know our marriage has been over for a long time. We've been living separate lives. Sophia is the future. You need to accept that and move on with dignity." Something cold and crystalline formed in my chest. For 3 years, I'd loved this man. I'd given up my career in corporate law to support his ambitions, had smiled through countless business dinners, had ignored the whispers and the signs because I believed in us. But dignity? He wanted to lecture me about dignity while sitting between his wife and his mistress? "You're absolutely right, Marcus," I said, setting down my wine glass. "I should apologize." He blinked, surprised. Sophia's smile grew wider. "Sophia," I turned to her, "I'm so sorry." "Thank you," she breathed. "That means so much." I'm sorry that you're foolish enough to think this will end differently for you. I kept my voice pleasant, conversational. I'm sorry that you don't realize you're not special, you're just next. I'm sorry that in 2 or 3 years, you'll be sitting where I am now, watching him parade around with someone younger while he explains how your relationship just ran its course. Sophia's face went pale. Elena, that's enough, Marcus growled. I'm sorry that you think a man who cheats with you won't cheat on you, I continued. And I'm especially sorry that you've torpedoed your career for this. Because let me tell you what happens next, Sophia. You think he's going to marry you? Maybe he will. But Hartwell Industries has a strict anti-fraternization policy for executives and their subordinates. Which means either you leave the company, or Marcus opens himself up to a lawsuit that could cost him millions. And Marcus doesn't lose millions, sweetheart. He just finds someone else. You're being cruel, Sophia whispered. I'm being honest. I stood, gathering my purse. Marcus, you wanted me here to play nice, to give my blessing to this farce. Consider this my final gift to you, the truth. You're not in love. You're having a midlife crisis. Sophia is young and pretty and makes you feel powerful. But the shine wears off, darling. It always does. I turned to leave, but Marcus grabbed my wrist, hard enough to hurt. Sit down, he said quietly. We're not done here. Actually, we are. I pulled my hand free. And Marcus, my lawyer will be in touch about the divorce. I hope Sophia is worth half of everything you own. I walked out of that restaurant with my head high, and I didn't look back. Behind me, I could hear Marcus calling my name, his voice tight with rage. But I kept walking, through the lobby, past the valet, into the cool night air. My hands didn't start shaking until I was in the taxi, blocks away from the restaurant and the ruins of my marriage. But even as tears threatened to fall, I felt something else stirring beneath the hurt, a fierce, burning determination. Marcus thought he'd won. He thought I'd roll over, take a settlement, and disappear quietly. He had no idea what was coming. Part 2. The Arsenal. The next morning, I woke up in my hotel suite with a pounding headache and a calendar full of appointments. I'd checked into the Grandview Hotel the week before, after I'd finally had enough of sleeping in the guest room of the penthouse Marcus and I had shared. Let him have it. Let him move Sophia in, for all I cared. I was done performing for an audience that didn't appreciate the show. My phone buzzed. 37 missed calls from Marcus. 12 angry text messages. 3 voicemails I had no intention of listening to. I deleted them all. Instead, I dialed a number I'd saved 3 months ago, back when I'd first started planning my exit strategy. Because I wasn't an idiot, and I certainly wasn't unprepared. Whitmore and Associates, a crisp voice answered. This is Elena Hartwell. I have a 9 a.m. appointment with Diane Whitmore. Of course, Mrs. Hartwell. Ms. Whitmore is expecting you. Diane Whitmore was the kind of divorce attorney who made billionaires nervous. She was 63, had never lost a case, and charged $1,000 an hour. I'd interviewed her right after I'd found the first hotel receipt in Marcus's jacket pocket, back when I'd still been hoping I was wrong. I wasn't wrong. I was just prepared. Her office was in a sleek downtown high-rise, all glass and steel and commanding views of the city. Diane herself was a petite woman with silver hair and eyes like a hawk. Elena, she said, gesturing to a leather chair across from her desk. I was wondering when you'd call. It's time, I said simply. She nodded, pulling out a thick file. I've been doing my homework since our last meeting. Marcus Hartwell's finances are complicated. He likes to keep things complicated, harder to track. Except he made one critical mistake. Diane's smile was sharp. He underestimated you. For the next 2 hours, we went through everything. Bank accounts, offshore holdings, shell corporations, real estate investments. Marcus had money hidden in a dozen different countries, all carefully structured to minimize taxes and maximize his control. But he'd forgotten one crucial thing. I had a law degree from Yale. I'd graduated top of my class, had spent 2 years at one of the country's most prestigious corporate law firms before Marcus had convinced me to quit and focus on supporting his vision. I knew how men like Marcus operated. I knew how they hid their money. And I knew where to look. This, Diane said, tapping a document, is the most interesting part. 3 years ago, Marcus created a trust in your name. Did you know about this? I leaned forward. No. It's worth approximately $40 million. Stocks, bonds, property holdings. It was supposed to be a tax shelter, I think, but legally, it's in your name. Which means in a divorce, it's yours. My heart stuttered. 40 million. Completely separate from the marital assets, which we'll still split. Diane's smile widened. Elena, you're not just getting half of everything. You're walking away with 3/4 of Marcus's wealth, minimum. Possibly more if we can prove he's been funneling company money to support his lifestyle. I sat back, processing this. 3/4 of Marcus's fortune. He was worth approximately $200 million. Which meant I'd be walking away with $150 million, I said slowly. At minimum, Diane confirmed. And that's before we discuss alimony, which given the circumstances and the length of your marriage, you're absolutely entitled to. I don't want alimony. Diane raised an eyebrow. Elena. I want him to understand that I don't need him for anything. Not his money, not his name, not his mercy. I met her eyes. I want a clean break. I take what's legally mine, he takes what's left, and we never speak again. All right, Diane said. But we do this by the book. Every single asset accounted for. No shortcuts, no settlements out of pity. You're entitled to everything we're claiming, and I'm going to make sure you get it. I nodded. There's one more thing. Oh. Sophia Chen. She works for Hartwell Industries. Marcus is having an affair with her. Diane's expression turned predatory. An employee? A junior executive. There's a company policy against executive-subordinate relationships. Is there now? Diane made a note. That's very interesting. Because if Marcus has been using company resources to conduct this affair, company time, company vehicles, company credit cards, then he's breached his fiduciary duty to the shareholders, which opens up a whole other avenue of legal action. I have receipts, I said. Hotel stays charged to the company card. Gifts purchased on company accounts. Business trips that included Sophia but had no legitimate business purpose. You've been documenting everything. Since the beginning. Diane looked at me with something like respect. Elena, I think you and I are going to get along very well. We spent another hour going over strategy. Diane would file the divorce papers by the end of the week. She'd send Marcus a letter detailing exactly what we knew about his hidden assets, his affair, and his misuse of company funds. She'd offer him one chance to settle fairly, and if he refused, we'd go to war. He'll fight this, I warned her. Good, Diane said. I charge more when they fight. I left her office feeling lighter than I had in months. The hurt was still there, sharp and deep. But underneath it was something stronger, righteous fury, and the sweet satisfaction of having a plan. Marcus thought he held all the cards. He was about to learn otherwise. My next stop was Hartwell Industries headquarters, a gleaming tower in the financial district. I'd been here hundreds of times over the years, had hosted parties in the executive dining room, had smiled and charmed investors and board members. But today, I wasn't here as Marcus's wife. I took the elevator to the 23rd floor, where the executive offices were located. Marcus's secretary, Jennifer, looked up in surprise. Mrs. Hartwell, I didn't know you were coming by today. Mr. Hartwell is in a meeting. I'm not here to see Marcus, I said pleasantly. I'm here to see Richard Chen. Jennifer's eyes widened slightly. Richard Chen was the CFO of Hartwell Industries, and more importantly, he was Sophia's father. I'm not sure if Mr. Chen is available. He'll make time, I said, already walking past her desk toward Richard's office. I knocked once and opened the door without waiting for an answer. Richard Chen looked up from his computer, his expression shifting from annoyance to surprise. Elena, what are you doing here? We need to talk, I said, closing the door behind me. About your daughter. Richard's face went carefully neutral. He was in his late 50s, sharp-eyed and intelligent. He'd been with Hartwell Industries for 15 years, and Marcus trusted him completely. Which meant Richard had probably suspected the affair for months and said nothing. If this is about Sophia and Marcus. It is. I sat down across from him, uninvited. Richard, I've always respected you. You're a brilliant CFO, and you've been loyal to Marcus for a long time. So I'm going to be direct with you. Your daughter is sleeping with my husband, and it's about to destroy both their careers. Richard's jaw tightened. Sophia is a grown woman. Her choices are her own. Her choices are about to get her fired, I said bluntly. Hartwell Industries has a strict anti-fraternization policy. When this affair becomes public, and it will become public, Richard, because I'm filing for divorce and these things always come out, the board is going to have to choose. Keep Marcus, the CEO and majority shareholder, or keep Sophia, a junior executive who violated company policy. Marcus violated the same policy, Richard said stiffly. Marcus owns the company. They can't fire him. But they can fire her. I leaned forward. Unless she resigns first. With a recommendation letter, a generous severance package, and her reputation intact. Richard studied me carefully. What are you proposing? I'm proposing that you convince your daughter to walk away before this gets ugly. Have her resign, claim she wants to pursue other opportunities. I'll make sure she gets a severance package and a recommendation. Marcus won't contest it because it solves his problem too. And what do you get out of this? Peace of mind, I said. I don't want to destroy Sophia's career. I'm angry, Richard. I'm hurt. But I'm not cruel. Your daughter made a mistake. She doesn't need to pay for it for the rest of her life. Richard was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Sophia thinks Marcus is going to marry her. He might, I said honestly. But it won't last. And in the meantime, she'll have thrown away everything she worked for. Is that really what you want for her? Richard closed his eyes briefly. No. Then talk to her. Convince her to walk away now, before the divorce papers are filed and this becomes a media circus. Because trust me, Richard, it will be a circus. Marcus Hartwell's messy divorce? That's front-page news. Every detail will come out. Every hotel stay, every gift, every stolen moment. Is that what you want for Sophia? No, Richard said again, more firmly this time. Good. I stood. I'll have my attorney draft a resignation agreement and severance package. Have Sophia sign it by the end of the week, and I'll make sure it's all handled quietly. Elena, Richard said as I reached the door. I'm sorry. About everything. I looked back at him. So am I, Richard. But sorry doesn't change anything, does it? I left Hartwell Industries feeling grimly satisfied. Sophia would resign, Marcus would be furious, and the affair would lose its shine once it was no longer secret and forbidden. But I wasn't done yet. My final appointment of the day was at Sterling Global, the second-largest corporate consulting firm in the country. I'd applied for a position there 6 weeks ago, back when I'd still been planning my exit strategy. The senior partner, Victoria Sterling, was a legend in the industry, a woman who'd built her empire from nothing and had zero tolerance for mediocrity. Elena Hartwell, Victoria said, gesturing me into her corner office. She was in her 50s, impeccably dressed, with the kind of confidence that came from decades of winning. I have to say, when your resume crossed my desk, I was intrigued. Yale Law, top of your class, 2 years at Morrison & Finch. And then, nothing. You just disappeared. I got married, I said simply. Victoria nodded knowingly. Let me guess. Your husband wanted you to focus on supporting his career. Something like that. And now I'm getting divorced, and I want my career back. Victoria leaned back in her chair, studying me. You've been out of the game for 3 years. That's a long time in this industry. I've kept up with developments. I've done consulting work on the side, pro bono cases for non-profits. And I've spent 3 years navigating the highest levels of corporate politics as the wife of Marcus Hartwell. I know how to negotiate, how to strategize, how to read a room and anticipate moves before they're made. Marcus Hartwell, Victoria repeated. I know Marcus. Brilliant businessman, but... She paused delicately. An arrogant ass, I finished. Yes. Which is why I'm leaving him. Victoria's lips quirked. We don't usually hire people who've been out of practice for 3 years. But she opened a folder on her desk. I've been following Hartwell Industries for a while now. Marcus has been making some aggressive moves lately. Acquisitions, expansions, new markets. It's bold, but it's also risky. He's overextended himself, and I don't think he realizes it yet. I thought about Marcus's offshore accounts, his shell corporations, his elaborate financial structures. You're right. He's spread too thin. If Hartwell Industries stumbles, a lot of people are going to want to know why. Having someone on our team who understands the inner workings of that company, who knows Marcus's strategies and weaknesses, that would be extremely valuable. I met her eyes. Are you offering me a position? I'm offering you a challenge, Victoria said. We're putting together a team to analyze Hartwell Industries' vulnerabilities. If they fail, our clients want to be positioned to benefit. If they succeed, our clients want to know how to replicate it. Either way, we need someone who understands Marcus Hartwell's playbook. I'm that person, I said. I know you are. Which is why I'm offering you a position as senior consultant, with a 6-figure salary and performance bonuses. You'll lead the Hartwell Industries analysis team. And Elena. Victoria smiled. When this hits the news, your divorce, your new position, Marcus is going to lose his mind. Are you prepared for that? Absolutely, I said. We shook hands, and I walked out of Sterling Global with a new job and a new purpose. Marcus wanted to discard me, to trade me in for a younger model? Fine. I'd show him exactly what he was losing. Part 3. The Fallout. The news broke 3 days later. Diane had filed the divorce papers Thursday morning, and by Thursday afternoon, every major business publication had the story. Hartwell Industries CEO Marcus Hartwell faces messy divorce. Elena Hartwell seeks majority split of $200 million fortune. Allegations of affair rock Hartwell Industries. My phone exploded with calls from reporters, old friends, distant relatives who hadn't spoken to me in years. I ignored all of them and went to work. Sterling Global's offices were everything I'd missed about corporate law: sleek, fast-paced, cutthroat. Victoria had given me a team of 4 analysts and a mandate to tear apart everything Marcus had built and find the weaknesses. It took me less than a week. He's leveraged to the hilt, I explained to Victoria, pointing at the financial models on my screen. Hartwell Industries looks solid on paper, but Marcus has been borrowing against future earnings to fund current acquisitions. If any of these new ventures underperform, the whole thing could collapse. Victoria studied the projections. How confident are you in this analysis? Completely, I said. I've seen Marcus's playbook for 3 years. He's brilliant at making aggressive moves, but he's terrible at planning for failure. He assumes everything will work out because it always has before. Pride before the fall, Victoria murmured. Exactly. All right. Write up a full report. I want it on my desk by Monday. We're presenting to the board on Tuesday, and I want them to see exactly how vulnerable Hartwell Industries really is. I worked through the weekend, fueled by coffee and righteous anger. The report was 50 pages of detailed financial analysis, and it painted a damning picture. Marcus had built a house of cards, and all it would take was one strong breeze to knock it down. Monday morning, I submitted the report. Monday afternoon, Victoria called me into her office. This is exceptional work, she said. Thorough, detailed, and devastatingly accurate. The board is going to eat this up. Thank you. There's just one problem. Victoria's expression turned serious. Marcus knows you work here now. And according to my sources, he's furious. He's threatening to sue Sterling Global for corporate espionage, claiming you stole proprietary information during your marriage. My stomach dropped. That's ridiculous. Everything in that report is based on publicly available information and standard industry analysis. I know that. You know that. But Marcus is desperate, and desperate men do stupid things. Victoria paused. Elena, I need to know. Did you take anything from Hartwell Industries? Any documents, any files, anything that could be considered proprietary. No, I said firmly. I documented Marcus's personal expenditures and his affair with Sophia because those are relevant to the divorce. But I never touched anything related to Hartwell Industries' business operations. Everything in my report is based on public filings, investor reports, and industry knowledge. Victoria nodded slowly. Good. Because Marcus's lawyers are going to come at us hard, and we need to be bulletproof. We are, I said. I hope you're right. That evening, I returned to my hotel suite to find Marcus waiting in the hallway outside my door. He looked terrible. His suit was rumpled, his tie was loose, and there were dark circles under his eyes. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Then I remembered the restaurant, Sophia's triumphant smile, and Marcus's demand that I apologize. Elena, he said, we need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. Speak to my lawyer. God damn it, Elena, listen to me. He grabbed my arm, and I wrenched it away. Don't touch me. You're destroying everything I built, Marcus said, his voice raw. The divorce, the allegations, your little report at Sterling Global. Do you have any idea what you're doing? Hartwell Industries stock is down 15%. I'm losing investors. The board is questioning my judgment. Good, I said coldly. Good. Marcus stared at me. You want to see me fail? After everything I gave you? Everything you gave me? I laughed, bitter and sharp. Marcus, you gave me nothing but loneliness and humiliation. You had an affair, you flaunted it in front of me, and then you had the audacity to demand that I apologize to your mistress. What did you expect would happen? I expected you to be reasonable, Marcus said. I expected you to take a settlement and move on quietly. Instead, you're trying to take everything I have. I'm taking what's legally mine, I corrected. There's a difference. You're using information you got from our marriage to destroy my company, Marcus said. That's corporate espionage, Elena. That's illegal. You're using information you got from our marriage to destroy my company, Marcus said. That's corporate espionage, Elena. That's illegal. Actually, it's not, I said calmly. Everything in my report is based on publicly available information. I never touched your files, Marcus. I never needed to. You're not as clever as you think you are. Marcus's face flushed red. I'll sue you. I'll sue Sterling Global. I'll make sure you never work in this industry again. Try it, I said. Please, Marcus, try it. Because when your lawyers depose me, when they ask me under oath about your hidden assets and your offshore accounts and your shell corporations, I'm going to tell them everything. And then the IRS is going to get very interested in your business practices. Marcus went pale. You wouldn't. Try me. We stared at each other, and I saw the moment he realized he'd lost. The fight went out of him, and he sagged against the wall. Why are you doing this? He asked quietly. Why do you hate me so much? I don't hate you, Marcus, I said, and I realized it was true. The anger was still there, hot and sharp, but underneath it was just sadness. I hate what you did. I hate that you threw away 3 years of marriage for someone who doesn't even really know you. I hate that you made me feel like I wasn't enough, when the truth is, you were never enough for me. Elena. I loved you, I continued. I gave up everything for you. My career, my independence, my sense of self. I made you the center of my world. And you repaid me by making me watch while you fell in love with someone else. I didn't mean to hurt you, Marcus said. But you did. And now you're facing the consequences. I unlocked my door. Goodbye, Marcus. Don't come here again. I closed the door in his face and locked it. Then I leaned against it, eyes closed, heart pounding. That was the last time I spoke to Marcus Hartwell. Part 4, The Secret. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. I got everything Diane had promised. The trust fund, half of the marital assets, 3 properties, and full ownership of the art collection Marcus and I had accumulated over the years. In total, I walked away with $160 million. Marcus kept Hartwell Industries, but his reputation was in tatters. The affair with Sophia had become public knowledge, and the board had forced him to step down as CEO. He was still majority shareholder, but he no longer had day-to-day control of the company he'd built. Sophia had resigned, just as I'd arranged with Richard Chen. She'd taken a position at a smaller firm in California, far away from Marcus and the scandal. I heard through the grapevine that she and Marcus had broken up 2 weeks after the divorce was filed. Apparently, the affair lost its appeal once it was no longer forbidden. As for me, I was thriving. Victoria had promoted me to partner at Sterling Global, making me the youngest person ever to achieve that position. My analysis of Hartwell Industries had been so accurate that 3 major investment firms had hired us to audit their own portfolios. I was working 70-hour weeks, traveling constantly, and loving every exhausting minute of it. But there was something else, too. Something I hadn't told anyone, not even Diane. A secret that had been burning in my chest for 4 months now. I was pregnant. I'd found out 2 weeks before that disastrous dinner at the restaurant. I'd been planning to tell Marcus, had imagined a dozen different ways to share the news. But then I'd seen him with Sophia, seen the way he looked at her, and I'd realized something important. I didn't want to be tied to Marcus Hartwell for the rest of my life. I didn't want him to have any claim to this child, any legal right to be involved in decisions about their future. I didn't want my son or daughter to grow up watching their father with his new family, feeling like a mistake or an obligation. So I'd made a choice. I hadn't told Marcus about the pregnancy. I'd hidden it during the divorce proceedings, wearing loose clothing and scheduling my doctor's appointments carefully. It was risky. If Marcus found out, he could challenge the divorce settlement, claim I'd hidden material information. But I didn't care. This baby was mine. Only mine. And I was going to give them everything Marcus never gave me: security, love, and a parent who chose them first, always. I was 5 months along now, just starting to show. Soon I'd have to tell people at work, make arrangements for maternity leave. But for now, it was my secret. My joy. My new beginning. One evening in early autumn, I stood on the balcony of my new penthouse, bought with my own money, decorated to my own taste, and looked out over the city. The lights sparkled like diamonds, and the air was crisp with the promise of change. My phone buzzed. A message from Victoria: board meeting went well. 3 new clients signed. You're killing it, partner. I smiled and rested my hand on my stomach, where my daughter was growing. I'd found out the sex last week. In 6 months, I'd be a mother. In 6 months, my life would be completely different again. But this time, the change was on my terms. My billionaire CEO husband had forced me to apologize to his girlfriend. He'd tried to make me small, to make me disappear quietly. Instead, I'd left with a promotion, a new career, and a secret that was mine alone. And I'd never been happier. Epilogue. 2 years later. The courtroom was packed. I sat in the gallery, anonymous in a crowd of reporters and spectators, watching as the judge reviewed the documents in front of her. Beside me, Diane Whitmore looked grimly satisfied. "Do you understand the charges against you, Mr. Hartwell?" the judge asked. Marcus stood at the defendant's table, flanked by 3 expensive lawyers. He looked older than his 45 years, his hair graying at the temples, lines of stress carved deep around his mouth. "Yes, Your Honor," he said. "Tax evasion, securities fraud, and misappropriation of corporate funds," the judge read. "How do you plead?" "Not guilty, Your Honor." But everyone in that courtroom knew the truth. After I'd left, after the divorce, Marcus had made increasingly desperate decisions to keep Hartwell Industries afloat. He'd cooked the books, hidden losses, and lied to investors. And eventually, inevitably, it had all come crashing down. The IRS investigation had started 6 months ago, triggered by an anonymous tip. I'd had nothing to do with it. I'd moved on with my life, but I wasn't surprised. Marcus had always played fast and loose with the rules, confident that his wealth and connections would protect him. They hadn't. "Bailiff, please escort Mr. Hartwell to holding," the judge said. "Trial will begin in 3 weeks." As Marcus was led away, his eyes scanned the crowd. For a moment, they locked on mine. He stared at me, and I saw recognition flicker across his face. Then surprise. Then something that might have been regret. I didn't look away. I held his gaze until he was gone, disappeared through a side door into whatever future awaited him. Then I stood and left the courtroom. Outside, The afternoon sun was warm on my face. Diane walked beside me, already on her phone scheduling her next appointment. "That's that," she said. "The prosecutors have an airtight case. Marcus will be lucky if he gets less than 10 years. "It's his own fault," I said. "It is," Diane agreed. She glanced at me. "How are you feeling?" "Relieved," I said honestly. "It's finally over." My phone buzzed. A text from my nanny. "Emma's awake from her nap. Should we meet you at the park?" I smiled. "I have to go." "Thank you for everything, Diane." "Any time." Diane squeezed my shoulder. "You did good, Elena. You got out, you rebuilt your life, and you're thriving. Not everyone manages that." "I had help," I said. "You had determination," Diane corrected. "The help just made it easier." I left her there and walked to the park 3 blocks away. It was a beautiful autumn day, the leaves turning gold and red, and children played on the swings while their parents watched. My daughter was sitting on a blanket under a tree, my nanny reading her a story. Emma was 18 months old now, with dark curl. Part 5. The Unexpected Visitor. 3 years after the divorce, I received a letter that changed everything. It arrived at my office at Sterling Global on a Tuesday morning, delivered by private courier. The envelope was expensive, cream-colored linen paper with my name written in careful calligraphy. No return address. I opened it carefully, expecting perhaps a wedding invitation or charity gala announcement. Instead, I found a single sheet of paper with 3 words, "We need to talk." It was signed by Richard Chen. I hadn't spoken to Richard since the day I'd convinced him to have Sophia resign from Hartwell Industries. That had been over 3 years ago, and as far as I knew, he'd left the company shortly after Marcus's legal troubles began. The CFO knew when to abandon a sinking ship. My assistant, Maya, knocked on my office door. "Mrs. Hartwell, there's a Mr. Chen here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment, but he says it's urgent." I looked at the letter again, then at the clock. I had a conference call in 30 minutes. "Send him in," I said. Richard Chen looked older than I remembered. His hair had gone completely gray, and there were deep lines around his eyes. But his suit was impeccable, and his handshake was firm. "Elena," he said. "Thank you for seeing me." "Richard." I gestured to the chair across from my desk. "What's this about?" He sat down, folding his hands carefully. "I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you 3 years ago, but I was afraid. And by the time I found the courage, I thought it was too late." My stomach tightened. "What is it?" Richard took a deep breath. "Sophia didn't have an affair with Marcus because she was in love with him. She did it because he threatened to fire me if she didn't." The world tilted. "What?" "Marcus discovered some financial irregularities in my department," Richard said, his voice steady but his eyes haunted. "I'd made some investment decisions that didn't pan out. Nothing illegal, just poor judgment. I'd lost the company about $5 million. Marcus said he'd overlook it, keep me on as CFO, if Sophia would cooperate." I couldn't breathe. "He blackmailed her." "He blackmailed both of us," Richard said. "Me with my job and my reputation. Sophia with my job and my reputation. She did it to protect me, Elena. She hated every second of it. But at dinner," I said slowly, trying to process this, "she seemed triumphant. She seemed like she wanted to be there." "She was acting," Richard said. "Marcus told her to make it convincing. He wanted you to hate her, wanted you to leave quietly so he could continue using Sophia without anyone asking questions." "Why?" I asked. "Why would Marcus do that? He could have any woman he wanted. Why force someone?" "Because it wasn't about wanting her," Richard said quietly. "It was about control. Marcus Hartwell is a man who likes to control everything and everyone around him. You were the only person in his life who had any real power. Financial power, legal power, social power. He needed to get rid of you, but he needed you to be the one to leave. So he created a situation where you had no choice but to go." I stood up and walked to the window, looking out over the city. My hands were shaking. "Sophia," I said. Does she know you're here?" She doesn't know I'm telling you this, Richard said. She moved to California 3 years ago, changed her name, started over. She's engaged now to a good man. She's happy. But she carries the guilt of what happened with her every day. She thinks you hate her. I did hate her, I said. I thought she was a gold digger who destroyed my marriage. Your marriage was already destroyed, Richard said. Marcus destroyed it. Sophia was just the weapon he used. I turned to face him. Why are you telling me this now? Why not 3 years ago? Because 3 years ago, I was still afraid of Marcus, Richard said. I was still worried about my reputation, my career, my future. But then Marcus went to prison, and I realized something. He'd controlled me for years. He'd controlled my daughter. And I'd let him because I was afraid. He stood, meeting my eyes. I'm not afraid anymore, he said. And you deserve to know the truth. Not just about Sophia, but about the man you were married to. Marcus Hartwell isn't just an unfaithful husband or a white-collar criminal. He's a predator. He finds people's vulnerabilities and exploits them. He did it to me, to Sophia, to dozens of others over the years. And he would have kept doing it if you hadn't stopped him. I didn't stop him, I said. The IRS did. You exposed his financial practices in your report for Sterling Global, Richard said. That report led to an SEC investigation, which led to the IRS investigation, which led to criminal charges. You started the dominoes falling, Elena. You saved a lot of people from being hurt the way Sophia and I were hurt. I sat down heavily, my mind racing. Does Marcus know about the blackmail? If he does, he's never admitted it, Richard said. His lawyers tried to use it as a defense during the trial, claimed he was being extorted by multiple employees. It didn't work. The evidence of his crimes was too overwhelming. Jesus, I whispered. Richard reached into his jacket and pulled out another envelope. This is from Sophia. She wrote it 2 years ago, right after Emma was born. She wanted you to have it, but I was too much of a coward to deliver it. I took the envelope with numb fingers. How did you know about Emma? We kept tabs on you, Richard said. Not in a creepy way. Just, we wanted to make sure you were okay. That you'd rebuilt your life. When we saw the birth announcement, Sophia cried for an hour. She was so happy for you, but also so sad that she'd played any part in causing you pain. Richard, I said slowly, I need you to tell me the absolute truth. Was there any part of Sophia that actually cared for Marcus? Any part that wanted to be with him? Richard's expression was answer enough, but he said it anyway. No. She was counting down the days until she could escape. When you arranged for her resignation, it was the best day of her life in 2 years. After Richard left, I sat alone in my office for a long time, holding Sophia's letter. Finally, I opened it. The coffee shop was neutral territory, a small place in Brooklyn far from both of our usual haunts. I arrived 15 minutes early, ordered a latte I had no intention of drinking, and sat by the window watching people pass by on the street. I'd told Rachel I'd be late picking up Emma from preschool. I'd told Victoria I had a personal appointment. I hadn't told anyone where I was really going, because I wasn't sure I could explain it even to myself. Why was I meeting with the woman who'd slept with my husband? Why did I care about her story, her pain, her redemption? Maybe because I'd spent 3 years being angry, and I was tired. Or maybe because becoming a mother had changed something fundamental in me, had made me understand how far someone might go to protect the people they loved. Or maybe I just needed to know the whole truth, no matter how much it hurt. Sophia arrived exactly on time. I recognized her immediately, though she looked different. Her hair was shorter, more practical. She wore minimal makeup. She looked older, more serious, like someone who'd lost something precious and learned to live without it. She saw me and froze just inside the door, her hand on the handle like she might bolt at any second. I lifted my hand in a small wave. She took a deep breath and walked over to my table. "Elena," she said. "Thank you for meeting me." "Sit," I said. "Please." She sat, her movements careful and controlled. Up close, I could see the fine lines around her eyes, the slight hollowness in her cheeks. She looked like someone who hadn't slept well in years. We sat in silence for a moment. I studied her face, looking for the triumphant mistress I'd hated for so long. I didn't find her. Instead, I saw a woman carrying an enormous weight of guilt and shame. "Richard told me what Marcus did," I said finally. "About the blackmail." Sophia's eyes filled with tears. "I wanted to tell you. That night at dinner, when you were so brave and so angry. I wanted to tell you the truth. But Marcus was sitting right there, and I knew if I said anything, my father would lose everything. So you let me think you were a gold digger who'd seduced my husband." "Yes," Sophia whispered. "I let you think the worst of me, because at least that meant my father was safe." "Tell me everything," I said. "From the beginning." Sophia took a shaky breath and began to talk. She told me about Marcus discovering her father's investment losses. About the private meeting in Marcus's office where he'd laid out his terms. Sophia would make herself available to him, would play the role of devoted mistress, would do whatever he asked. In return, Richard would keep his job and his reputation intact. He said if I refused, he'd not only fire my father but make sure he never worked in finance again, Sophia said. He said he'd ruin him. And I believed him, because Marcus Hartwell ruins people. That's what he does. "Why didn't you go to the police?" I asked. "Report him for sexual coercion?" "And say what?" Sophia's laugh was bitter. "That one of the most powerful men in the country was blackmailing me? Who would believe me? I had no proof, no recordings. It would be his word against mine, and he had armies of lawyers. I'd lose, my father would still lose his job, and I'd be labeled a liar and a troublemaker for the rest of my career." She was right, and we both knew it. "The affair lasted 2 years, Sophia continued. 2 years of pretending to be in love, of playing the devoted girlfriend, of smiling and laughing and acting like I wanted to be there. And the worst part was watching you. Watching you at company events. Watching you smile even though I could see the pain in your eyes. Watching you slowly break." "I wasn't breaking," I said. "I was planning." Sophia looked up in surprise. "What?" "From the moment I found the first hotel receipt, I was documenting everything," I said. "Building a case, preparing for the divorce. I wasn't some helpless victim waiting for rescue. I was a strategist executing a plan." A small smile crossed Sophia's face. "I should have known. You were always 3 steps ahead of everyone else." "Except I didn't know about the blackmail," I said. "I thought Marcus had fallen in love with you. I thought I'd failed as a wife." "You didn't fail," Sophia said fiercely. "Elena, you were perfect. You were brilliant and beautiful, and you ran that man's social life flawlessly. Marcus didn't cheat because you weren't enough. He cheated because he's a sociopath who gets off on control and manipulation." We sat in silence for a moment. "At dinner that night," I said slowly, "when I told you Marcus would do the same thing to you that he did to me, you were relieved, weren't you?" Sophia nodded. "When you said we'd end up in the same place, I remember thinking, God, I hope so. Because if he left me for someone else, it would be over. I'd be free. And then I filed for divorce." "And then you filed for divorce," Sophia repeated, "and my father arranged my resignation, and I ran 3,000 miles away and changed my name and tried to forget any of this ever happened. Did it work?" I asked. "No," Sophia said simply. "How could it? I spent 2 years as another woman's husband's mistress. I let you take all the pain and all the blame while I stayed silent. I'm not proud of that, Elena. I'm ashamed every single day. I looked at this woman who I'd hated for so long, who I'd blamed for destroying my marriage, and I felt something shift inside me. Sophia," I said carefully, "I need you to understand something. What Marcus did to you was wrong. The blackmail, the coercion, all of it. But you still made choices. You chose to protect your father by sleeping with my husband. You chose to let me believe you were in love with Marcus. You chose to stay silent at that dinner." "I know," Sophia said, tears spilling over. "I know I did. And I need you to understand that those choices hurt me," I continued. "They devastated me. There were nights I lay awake wondering what was wrong with me, why I wasn't enough, what I could have done differently. I blamed myself for losing my husband to you." "I'm so sorry," Sophia sobbed. I know you are, I said. And I believe you. I believe you were in an impossible situation, and I believe you did what you thought was necessary to protect your father. But Sophia, you need to forgive yourself. Because I can't do that for you. She looked up, surprised. What? I can forgive you for the affair, I said. I can understand why you did it. But you have to forgive yourself for your choices. You have to accept that you were young and scared and made decisions you regret. And then you have to move on. How? Sophia asked. How do I move on from this? The same way I did, I said. You build something new. You create a life that has nothing to do with Marcus Hartwell or your mistakes or your shame. You be happy, deliberately and defiantly. Because that's the best revenge against people who tried to destroy you. Sophia wiped her eyes. Richard said you have a daughter. Emma, I said, and I couldn't help but smile. She's 3. Smart, stubborn, absolutely fearless. Does Marcus know? No, I said. And he never will. Sophia's eyes widened. You didn't tell him about the pregnancy? No. And before you say anything about his rights or whatever, I don't care. Marcus Hartwell is a predator, as your father said. He manipulates and controls and destroys. I won't give him any opportunity to do that to my daughter. Good, Sophia said fiercely. That's good, Elena. We talked for another hour. Sophia told me about her life in California, her fiancé, a high school teacher who knew nothing about her past, and her work as a consultant for small businesses. She was happy, or at least working toward it. I told her about Sterling Global, about my partnership, about the life I'd built from nothing. About learning to be a mother while also being a businesswoman. About the sleepless nights and the perfect moments and everything in between. When we finally stood to leave, Sophia hesitated, then held out her hand. Thank you, she said, for meeting me, for listening, for not hating me. I looked at her hand for a moment, then bypassed it and pulled her into a brief hug. I wasted 3 years hating you, I said. I'm done with that now. When I pulled back, Sophia was crying again, but this time they were different tears. Be happy, Sophia, I said. That's all I want for you. Be happy, and let that be enough. You too, she said. You too, Elena. I walked out of that coffee shop feeling lighter than I had in years. The anger I'd carried, the resentment, the bitter satisfaction of revenge, all of it evaporated into the crisp autumn air. Marcus Hartwell hadn't just lost his marriage and his company and his freedom. He'd lost his power over me. And that, finally, was true victory. Part 7. Full Circle. 5 years after the divorce, I stood in the lobby of Hartwell Tower and felt absolutely nothing. The building was under new ownership now. After Marcus's conviction, Hartwell Industries had been broken up and sold off in pieces. This particular tower, the crown jewel of Marcus's empire, had been purchased by a tech conglomerate that was renovating it floor by floor. Sterling Global had signed a lease for the entire 40th floor. Victoria had called it poetic justice. I'd called it good real estate. Mrs. Hartwell. Maya appeared at my elbow. The movers are here with your furniture. Where do you want your office? Corner office, I said. The one that used to be. I stopped. Maya waited patiently. The one with the best view, I finished. The one that used to be Marcus's office. But I didn't need to say that out loud. We rode the elevator to the 40th floor. The space had been completely gutted and redesigned. Glass walls, open floor plans, modern fixtures. Nothing remained of the old Hartwell Industries except the bones of the building itself. My new office was 3 times the size of my old one. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, and there was room for a conference table, a sitting area, and a massive desk. My name was already on the door, etched in elegant script, Elena Hartwell, senior partner. I'd kept Marcus's last name. Not because I still felt attached to him, but because I'd earned it. I'd survived being Mrs. Marcus Hartwell, and I'd turned that experience into wisdom, strength, and success. The name was mine now, completely divorced from the man who'd given it to me. Mom. I turned to see Emma racing across the empty office space, her backpack bouncing on her shoulders. She was 5 now, starting kindergarten in the fall, and already she had opinions about everything. "Mommy, is this your new office? It's so big. Can I have a desk too? Can I come here after school sometimes?" Rachel, my nanny, appeared behind her, apologetic. "I'm sorry, Elena. She insisted on seeing your new office." "It's fine," I said, crouching down to Emma's level. "What do you think, sweetheart? Do you like it?" "I love it." Emma spun in a circle, her arms outstretched. "It's like a princess castle but for working." I laughed. "Something like that. Ms. Hartwell." One of the movers appeared in the doorway. "Where do you want this?" He was holding a painting, an abstract piece Marcus and I had purchased on our honeymoon in Paris. I'd kept it in storage for years, unable to look at it but unable to throw it away. "Actually," I said, "you can donate that. I don't need it anymore." The mover nodded and carried it away. Emma tugged on my sleeve. "Mommy, who's that man in the picture on your desk?" I looked at the photo she was pointing to, a silver frame I'd unpacked myself, one of the first things I'd placed in my new office. "That's your grandfather," I said. "My father. He died before you were born." "Did he work in a tall building too?" "No," I said, smiling at the memory. "He was a teacher. High school English. He always said the best wealth was knowledge." "That's silly," Emma said. "You can't buy ice cream with knowledge." "Maybe not," I said. "But you can build a life with it. And that's worth more than ice cream." Emma looked skeptical but didn't argue. She wandered over to the windows, pressing her nose against the glass. "I can see the whole city," she exclaimed. I joined her at the window, resting my hand on her small shoulder. From up here, everything looked orderly and manageable. The chaos of the streets below was reduced to a pattern, comprehensible and contained. "Do you like your job, Mommy?" Emma asked. "Yes," I said. "I do." "Is it hard?" "Sometimes," I admitted. "But the hard things are usually the most rewarding." Emma processed this. "Mrs. Kim says I'm good at hard things. She says I'm persistent." "You are," I said, fighting back a smile. My daughter had inherited my stubborn streak in full. "Mommy." Emma looked up at me, her gray eyes serious. "Why don't I have a daddy?" My heart stopped. We'd had versions of this conversation before, but never quite so directly. I knelt down beside her. "You do have a daddy," I said carefully. "But he and I decided it was better if we didn't live together. Sometimes that happens with grown-ups." "Lily at school has a daddy who doesn't live with her," Emma said. "But she sees him on weekends." "Every family is different," I said. "In our family, it's just you and me. Is that okay?" Emma thought about this seriously. "I guess so," she said. "But, Mommy." "Yes, baby. If you ever want to get a daddy for me, I want one who likes ice cream and dogs and reading bedtime stories." "Okay." I pulled her into a hug, breathing in her little girl scent of shampoo and crayons. "Okay," I said. "I'll keep that in mind." After Rachel took Emma home, I spent an hour arranging my office exactly how I wanted it. Books on the shelves, law books, business books, novels I'd loved. Photos on my desk, Emma at the beach, Emma's first day of preschool, Emma and me at her 5th birthday party. A small painting Victoria had given me when I made partner, bright and hopeful. Nothing from my marriage. Nothing from the past that I didn't want to carry forward. As the sun started to set, painting the city in shades of gold and orange, Victoria knocked on my doorframe. "Nice space," she said, walking in. "Much better than that closet they had you in at the old building." "I wasn't complaining," I said. "You should have been." Victoria handed me a glass of champagne. "I brought this to celebrate." "Celebrate what?" "We moved offices." "That's hardly champagne-worthy." "Not the move," Victoria said. "This." She handed me a folder. I opened it and scanned the first page. Then the second. Then I looked up at Victoria in shock. "Is this real?" "Completely real," Victoria said. Hartwell Industries' former investors have filed a class action lawsuit against Marcus's estate. They want us to handle it. It's worth $20 million in fees, minimum. I sat down slowly. They want me specifically. They asked for you by name, Victoria confirmed. They said you're the only person who understands how deep Marcus's fraud went. They trust you to get them justice. I looked down at the folder, at the list of investors who'd lost everything when Hartwell Industries collapsed. Pension funds. Retirement accounts. People who'd trusted Marcus and been betrayed. This could take years, I said. Probably, Victoria agreed. It'll be complicated, exhausting, and politically messy. But Elena, it's also the right thing to do. Those people deserve someone fighting for them. I thought about Marcus in prison, serving a 10-year sentence for his crimes. I thought about all the people he'd hurt, Sophia, Richard, these investors, countless others. I thought about the empire he'd built on lies and manipulation. And I thought about Emma, asking me if I liked my job. I'll do it, I said. Victoria smiled. I knew you would. We clinked glasses. To taking down Marcus Hartwell, Victoria said. Again. To justice, I corrected. To making sure people like Marcus can't keep destroying lives. Even better, Victoria said. That night, after I'd tucked Emma into bed and read her 3 bedtime stories, her current record for negotiating more, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my balcony, looking out over the city. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I heard about the lawsuit. Good luck. You're going to win. S. Sophia. Still keeping tabs, still rooting for me from 3,000 miles away. I typed back, thank you. How's the wedding planning? Her response came a minute later, chaotic, but happy. He asked me to take his last name. I said yes. Ready to be someone new. You were always someone new, I wrote. You just had to believe it. Elena. Yeah. You saved my life. You know that, right? I looked at those words for a long time. You saved your own life, I finally wrote back. I just showed you the door. Same thing, Sophia replied. Thank you. I set down my phone and took a sip of wine. The city sparkled below me, full of stories and secrets and second chances. Marcus Hartwell had tried to make me apologize. He'd tried to make me small, powerless, forgettable. Instead, I'd walked away with everything. My freedom, my career, my daughter, my self-respect. And now I was going to make sure he couldn't hurt anyone else, even from behind bars. My billionaire CEO husband had forced me to apologize to his girlfriend. I'd left with a promotion, a secret, and the last laugh. And I'd never been more ready for whatever came next. Epilogue 2. 10 years later. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. I was in my corner office at Sterling Global, now Sterling Hartwell Global, after I'd taken over as CEO when Victoria retired 2 years earlier, reviewing quarterly reports when Maya brought in the mail. This one came by certified mail, she said, handing me a thick manila envelope. Return address is Lakeview Correctional Facility. My hands froze on the envelope. That's where Marcus Hartwell is serving his sentence, Maya finished. Do you want me to deal with it? I looked at the envelope for a long moment. Marcus had sent me letters over the years, angry ones in the beginning, then pleading, then philosophical. I'd never responded to any of them. But this was different. This envelope was thick, substantial. Not a letter. Something else. No, I said. I'll handle it. After Maya left, I opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a stack of legal documents. Divorce papers. No, we'd been divorced for 10 years. Then I saw the header, Last Will and Testament of Marcus James Hartwell. There was a note paper-clipped to the front, written in Marcus's distinctive handwriting. Elena, I'm dying. Pancreatic cancer. They give me 3 months, maybe 6. I'm using what time I have left to set things right. I know you'll never forgive me. I don't expect you to. But I need you to know that I'm sorry. Not just for the affair, but for everything. For making you small. For trying to control you. For not appreciating what I had until it was gone. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I destroyed it. That's something I'll carry to my grave, which, apparently, is coming sooner than expected. I'm leaving everything to Emma. Before you panic, Read the attached documents. I've set up a trust that she can't access until she's 25. It's managed by an independent trustee, not me, not you, someone neutral. The money will be there if she wants it, but it comes with no strings, no conditions, no obligation to remember me fondly or at all. She's my daughter, Elena. I know that. I've always known. The timing of your pregnancy, your sudden refusal to negotiate on certain points during the divorce, the way you've kept her completely out of the public eye. I'm not an idiot. And I understand why you did it. If I were you, I would have done the same thing. But she's still my child. And she deserves to inherit from me, even if she never knows who I am. The trust is worth approximately $100 million. It's clean money, completely separate from Hartwell Industries, from my criminal activities, from anything that could come back to haunt her. I've had lawyers vet it 6 times. This isn't me trying to buy my way back into your life, or into Emma's. This is just me trying to do one decent thing before I die. Tell her about me or don't. That's your choice. But please, let her have this opportunity. She didn't do anything wrong. She doesn't deserve to suffer for my mistakes. Marcus. P.S. You won. Completely and utterly. I hope that knowledge brings you some peace. I read the letter 3 times, then set it down with shaking hands. Marcus knew about Emma. No, I said honestly. But I need to do this. Before it's too late. 3 days later, I walked into Lakeview Correctional Facility 4. He'd always known. And he'd never said anything. Never tried to claim parental rights, never threatened me, never used his knowledge as leverage. He'd just, let me go. Let us go. I picked up the phone and called my lawyer. Diane. It's Elena. I need you to look at something. 2 hours later, Diane sat across from my desk, the trust documents spread between us. It's legitimate, she said. The money is clean, the trust is properly structured, and Marcus has no control over it whatsoever. When Emma turns 25, she'll have full access to $100 million. What if I refuse it? I asked. Then the money goes to charity, Diane said. Marcus specified that. If you refuse on Emma's behalf, the trust dissolves and everything goes to various cancer research foundations. I leaned back in my chair. He really is dying. I called the prison. He has stage 4 pancreatic cancer. They're keeping him in the medical wing. He probably has 2 or 3 months left, if that. Jesus, I whispered. Elena, Diane said carefully, what do you want to do? I thought about Marcus in prison, dying alone. I thought about Emma, who was 10 years old now and absolutely thriving, top of her class, captain of her soccer team, obsessed with marine biology and convinced she was going to save the world's oceans. I thought about the $100 million that could fund her education, her future, her dreams. And I thought about the man who'd tried to make me apologize to his girlfriend, who'd controlled and manipulated and destroyed so much. But also the man who'd known about Emma for 10 years and kept his distance because he understood that was what I needed. I want to talk to him, I said finally. Diane's eyebrows shot up. Are you sure? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to support the Love Beyond Shade channel.